Good morning and welcome to Champagne Solutions webinar for test-taking strategies for Salesforce certification. The presentation will take about 30 minutes and all participants will be muted during the presentation. The presenter today will be Jenn Sanders, CEO and founder of Champagne Solutions. She holds a Master's in Education and 4 Salesforce certifications. Most were earned at Dreamforce itself, and the latest was Advanced Administrator, earned at Dreamforce 2016. I will now hand over the presentation to Jenn.
Thank you, Sandra. Once again, I am Jenn Sanders, and today I'll be presenting to you general test-taking strategies that can be used for any Salesforce certification. Whether it's your first certification or in addition to your collection, everyone can benefit from these strategies. 2017 marks my 10th year of reign in the Salesforce world, and 3 out of the 4 certifications I got at Dreamforce. Certification is always a cherry on top of my Dreamforce experience, but we'll talk a little more about cherries later in the presentation. I also hold a Master's in Education, which I'm happy to be using today for your training. Now then, let's jump in. Before the test, you want to first get calm. Meditation is best, or you can just close your eyes and breathe deeply for a count of 30. Instead of using those last few minutes before the test or cram more studying, it's better to empty your mind for maximum clarity. Second, get confident. I like to do my own yoga for certification with Sun Salutation and the Warrior Series, but if you're not into yoga, you can make a big X with your body, legs far apart and arms held high. Breathe deeply and slowly for a count of 10. And finally, eat a banana. It's good for your brain power. Start of the test. So you will be given 3 blank sheets of paper and a pencil. You want to use this paper to write down the question numbers in sets of 12. You will be using these both for your question notes as well as marking time. So you'll have 1 through 12, 13 through 24, and so on. You can expect answers to come in 2 formats. The radio buttons will have you select 1 multiple choice, or the trickier ones will have you select 2 to 3 check boxes out of 4 to 5 possibilities. It is important to note that you must get all of these select 2 to 3 right to get credit for the question. Partial credit is not given. Typically, you'll have 90 minutes to answer 60 questions, although some tests do vary a bit. Now, once we start the test and that timer starts ticking down, you have your 90 minutes, and those minutes are precious. So get to work, and you'll want to read answers bottom up. This technique will discourage your natural inclination to skim and help you avoid falling for wording tricks. Process of elimination is your best friend. Even if you think you know the answer straight off, you should always arrive at your answer by eliminating the other possibilities. So eliminate with gusto. Third, vote for what you know. An answer can sound perfectly reasonable, but if you haven't heard the exact terminology used or seen the precise functionality being described, then chances are it doesn't exist, and the logical sounding answer is actually incorrect. Now, you have studied hard, you know your stuff, so if you don't recognize something on that test, it's probably because it's not real, so vote for what you know. Fourth, you can use questions against each other for leverage. Often you'll find multiple questions that overlap with the same term. And to give you an anecdote, on my latest certification I got, Dreamforce 2016, my advanced administrator encountered a question that listed an answer for a delegated administrator. Now, I had not heard about delegated administration at that point, so at first I thought, well, this is probably a trick and I don't know it, so I'm going to think that it is not the right answer. But later I ran across a second and third and then a fourth question all about delegated administration. So then I realized, oh, this must be a real thing. So I marked all of these on my notepaper and used them to gain understanding of delegated administration, this thing I didn't know about. And that enabled me to get the answers for all four, probably saving me the whole test. Finally, you want to mark every uncertainty. So mark, you are given one friend in this fearsome test, and that friend is a little piece of functionality called mark this question for later review. And it's a little checkbox you'll find on every single question. Use this liberally. It is your only friend. So anytime you are not totally sure, go ahead and mark that question, and we will build on the strategy for that as we move through the presentation here. Also, when you mark it on the test, you'll also want to mark it on your note paper. Write down the possible answers that you have remaining after you've used your process of elimination. So say for question 12, I've already eliminated answers A and B. I'm not going to waste time on my review when I come back reading A and B again. So on my note paper, I'll just write down C and D so that I don't waste time rereading answers that I know don't work. Do's and don'ts. Here's a little quick cheat sheet for you guys. Do. Answer every question. There is no benefit to leaving empty answers, so be sure to answer every question. Do not leave any blanks. Number 2, be thorough. Read each question thoroughly and don't skim. Pay attention to the specific terminology used. Don't assume anything more than exactly what you are given. The test is designed to trick you however it can, including encouraging you to form your own context around the question scenarios. It will be tempting, but will lead you into error. Thirdly, you want to read every answer. Don't be fooled by the knee-jerk reaction to choose the first answer that sounds good, so don't take the trick. Fourth, use logic. Your brain is also your friend, so you can logic your way through the answers before deciding. And I know it may sound obvious, but you want to avoid guessing as much as you can. Finally, you want to go with your gut. Your first inclination is the most likely to be correct. Be wary of overthinking your answers and don't change them unless you have a good reason for it. When in doubt, make Salesforce look good. Salesforce has spent a lot of time making an awesome product, not to mention an awe-inspiring test. So, answers that come with a can-do attitude are generally more likely to be correct than answers that describe limitations or say what you can't do. For time management, we're going to use a method called Mark Twain. Now, Mark Twain is my favorite author, so he had to make an appearance here. And as some of us, and hopefully many of us know, Mark Twain is actually a pseudonym he adopted from a nautical term meaning to measure depth of water that you're in by measurements of 12 feet at a time. So when you mark Twain, you are counting by 12s. So we're going to apply this to our test. And as I mentioned before, you're going to write your question numbers on your paper, 1 through 12, 13 through 24, and so on. And this will give you about 14 minutes per chunk of 12. So go ahead and do your math before you start the timer. Mark on your paper how much time you should have, or which time marker you should be at as you move through each chunk, so that you will have enough time at the end for your finale. 20 minutes will be the ideal amount of time for review. And if you spend any more than 30, you may not have spent enough time understanding the questions the first time. So do your best thinking first. You will never have as much time with a question as you do the first pass to get your head wrapped around it from the get-go. And finally, if we have used our Mark Twain method, we should hopefully have enough time at the end for the mission critical review period. This brings us to the end of the test, this last 20 minutes that we have carefully reserved. So once you get through all the questions, you'll be taken to a screen on your first pass. After you get done with that, you'll be taken to a screen where you can review all of the answers you have marked for review. What you're going to do is calculate the odds of passing the test. So you'll count up the ones you have marked. Figure you got these wrong, and this number will tell you how close you are to the passing score. So if there are 60 questions and the typical passing score is 70%, then you'll need to have no more than 18 marked. And again, you want to do this math and indicate it on your paper before you start that timer. Okay, now that we've calculated the odds, you're going to take a sweeping read through all of your marked questions. You're using the pre-eliminated questions you've made on your note paper to skip rereading answers that you already know aren't right. And as we read through all of our marked questions, this will enable you to identify low-hanging fruit. This means questions that are easier to figure out than, say, the ones where you haven't heard at all of what it's talking about. So don't waste time on things that you've never heard of, you're not going to figure it out. So instead, you want to cherry pick the low-hanging fruit until we hit our target number of marked questions. Finally, when you are done, or really when you run out of minutes, it's time for you to take a deep breath and submit your test. Do you have questions? Well, we've got answers. You can submit them directly to me at Jenn@champagnesolutions.com. Thank you so much. We have loved having you, and it was our pleasure to present to you today. Hope to see you on the webinars to come. Thank you very much. Have a good day.